Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this virtual roundtable with Prince Amukamara, Domi Richardson, Trevin Wade, Imani Dorsey, and Shawn Poindexter. My name is Emma Elsbecker. I'm an ambassador for the Dartmouth Political Union, and I will be moderating tonight's roundtable. I would like to thank the entire Dartmouth Political Union executive team, as well as Darshana Griggs and Catherine Darrott from Event Operations at Dartmouth for all the hard work that went into making this event a reality. For those who may not have attended a Dartmouth Political Union event previously, we are a nonpartisan organization committed to fostering across the aisle issue-based conversations. We aim to bring a diverse range of speakers from academics to athletes to cover the most pressing issues nationally. We also host regular social events for our members and student debates. Just for the sake of clarity, any views expressed by the athletes today are not endorsed by myself or the Dartmouth Political Union. At our roundtable tonight, we have 5 athletes with different backgrounds, specialties, and political ideologies. Rather than try to cover their innumerable achievements, I will yield each athlete 2 minutes to introduce themselves and their political background. First, Prince Amukamara.
Hello, everybody. My name is Prince Amukamara. I am a current NFL player, no team right now, and my political background is that's tough. I mean, it's a loaded question. I wouldn't know how to kind of categorize it, but I guess we're gonna find out what it is today, right? And that's all I have. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Prince. Next, we will hear from Domi Richardson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Domi Richardson. I am currently in New Jersey. I play for Sky Blue in the NWSL, which is the National Women's Soccer League. I would say my political background, I typically lean more democratically, but I don't know, I like to see things from all sides. So similar to what Prince said, I guess we're all going to find out where we are and where we stand tonight.
Thank you, Domi. Next, we will toss it to Prince's former teammate, Trevin Wade.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Trevin Wade. I was with the New York Giants, and I would say political background, I'm more slightly to the right. I do like to see all views, but my values and morals are probably lean slightly to the right.
Thank you, Trevin. Next, we will hear from Domi's teammate, Imani Dorsey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Imani Dorsey. I am a player for Sky Blue FC, defender, and my political background is I'm a Democrat, registered Democrat, and I definitely have more liberal views, but I'm always open to having a good conversation and learning from different perspectives, and hopefully coming together to form something better and stronger and make change really happen. So I'm excited to be here, excited to have a good conversation.
Thank you, Imani. Last but not least, we will hear from Shawn Poindexter.
Hey, everybody, I'm Shawn Poindexter. I went to the University of Arizona. Right now, I'm currently with the San Francisco 49ers. I guess my political belief, I lean more towards conservative just because that's the way my pops raised me. But now that I'm starting to develop my own opinion, we'll see where I land.
Thank you so much for those introductions. We will start with about 20 minutes of pre-written questions and then proceed to questions from the audience. If you have any politically oriented questions for the table or a specific athlete, send them in the Q&A throughout the event. If you would like to have your question asked for you, submit the question anonymously. Otherwise, you'll be given the opportunity to ask your question live. Questions will be chosen based on the number of upvotes they receive. And with that, I will ask my first question. Broadly speaking, players have justified kneeling during the national anthem in one of 2 ways. First, the player believes that what the American flag stands for is flawed. Second, the player believes that what the American flag stands for is good, but that America today does not live up to the values of the flag. Do you believe that kneeling for the flag is justified in either case? If not, how do you think players should protest, if at all? Imani, do you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought Trevin was gonna go. But
Yeah,
I'll
sorry. Go ahead.
first.
Go ahead.
So for me personally, I mean, I reside more in the camp of the second point, where the American flag. We believe, like I believe, what the flag stands for is something that we should all be striving for: freedom, equality, pursuit of happiness. Those are great qualities, but unfortunately, they just haven't been given to every American, unfortunately. And I think kneeling is a perfectly fine way to express that, because it makes a statement and it makes people reflect and try to think about why is that happening. And I think from all the conversations that I've had with players and with people outside of the league, especially this past summer with kind of the demonstrations that went forth in our NWSL Challenge Cup, it was a statement to be made. And I think that is the entire purpose. That is why Kaepernick knelt to begin with. And for this time, it's been years since he first took a knee, but the events of last summer, and it really felt like it was a moment to make a statement. And I'm proud I was a part of that. And I think that it was the correct vehicle for the moment.
I think that is justified in either one of the scenarios, but to piggyback off of hers with the second one, I think that, yeah, there is a lot of inequality going on in the States for sure. And so I think that based on our right as an American, I think that we have the choice to stand or to knee. And so if there's something that you disagree with and you have the platform to use your opinion to help change things, I think that you should take advantage of it, for one. And for two, I think that also there's a problem with like organizations that don't give the players the right to choose, because you've seen how some teams wouldn't even come out to give the players the right to either take a knee or to stand for the national anthem. And I think that was a problem too. So yeah.
I would go with more with the second option, because I at first when Kaepernick took the knee, it was you knew what he stood for, which I thought was great. I just thought he kind of handled it wrong, wearing the pig socks for the police, because then that just gives people a way to get off subject and get off topic. So instead of putting the focus on the injustice that he wanted to put awareness for, the narrative changed to the pig socks and like police being called names, and then the negativity. So I felt like he kind of gave people a reason to get off topic. But I do respect anybody who does kneel or stand. I just think it kind of got out of control because people were kneeling just to follow. They weren't really involved in change. Like I said, I was cool with the kneeling, and it's just like, but what else are you doing off the field? And I felt like there were only select few people actually making change. I mean, they kneel to show face, but what did they actually do to go out and make change? So that was just my thoughts on there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Trevin, about like, it's more about what do you do when you kneel? So it can't just be like a performative thing. Like you have to be putting in the work on like the grassroots level of, okay, I'm actually putting into action what I believe. I can't just, say I'm doing it because everybody else is doing it now. So I think like on our team, we now have, after Imani talked about, like during our Challenge Cup, our most of our team decided to, and then through that process, we now have like a board on our team that we're now going out into the communities of New Jersey. Obviously, it's going to be hard because of the pandemic and whatnot, but we are going to try to do that. So I think what you're saying is very important. And if you're kneeling, you should be putting action behind it.
I don't necessarily think that just because you kneel, you have to go and do more stuff. Like kneeling is action. Like that could have been someone's biggest first step. Someone could have been so scared for the longest time to even speak out. And that was their way. You know what? Like, this is something that is hard for me to do. I can go and just do this. By me kneeling, I'm bringing awareness, and keeping the conversation going. It's huge. Not to devalue how big of a value action is, but like I still think that by kneeling, that's taking action, because you're also sacrificing your right to being comfortable, your right to go home and not get criticized by your neighbor who is for the flag, or you're sacrificing your right for your wife to walk around the grocery store without being heckled. Like, so I don't want to devalue kneeling like it's not big. Like that's a huge step for whoever takes it, because I feel like sacrifice comes with that. Same with like wearing a MAGA hat, which is, I know I'm getting off topic, but it's the same thing. Like when you wear your MAGA hat, like you're basically like, even though it's not the popular opinion, because kneeling wasn't the popular thing to do, just like wearing a MAGA hat isn't today. And so if someone wears a MAGA hat and they're showing support for their president, I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I actually just want to go off of Prince's point, because I think it's a very important statement to make. I feel like there needs to be, we don't want performative action. We want people to take a knee because they truly believe that's in their heart, that's what they want to do. They shouldn't be doing it because they're being pressured into it. But I am more interested in seeing action from people who don't kneel, because I think the conversation that Trevin has said, like, this whole thing has almost gotten blown out of proportion. And the fact that we're talking about not just us, but the general conversation is about, oh, people aren't being patriotic, or it completely detracting from the actual issue at hand, which is inequality and social injustice. I want to know what people are going to do who have an issue with kneeling, but what are you going to do to follow up and fight inequality and fight racism in this country? Because right now it looks like you're aligning yourself with people who are trying to make excuses for why they don't want to kneel, but it's really just to hide their blatant racism. So I need, like, for me, it comes down to understanding what a person values and what you're going to do if you're not going to take that big step. Because I mean, we had several teammates who had incredibly hard conversations with family and friends, but they were like, in my heart, I know this is the right thing to do, and this is the statement to make. So to Prince's point, like, that is not easy. And yeah, it's really important to back your words up with action, and to back your action up with more action. So wanted to
yeah, so Imani and Trevin, and all of y'all really touched on this, but many athletes have been criticized for being only performative activists. So they only put Black Lives Matter on the back of their jerseys, or they just post on social media, but don't really act on it. Do you think that athletes feel pressured to be activists for the sake of their public image, even if they don't really support the cause?
I would say they feel pressure from their peers. For instance, if we're all on a team and you guys kneel and I don't, now it looks like I don't care. And so then that pressures me to be fake and take a knee, when like I might say, it really should be, okay, I decide to stand at this moment, and she should come up to me and be like, hey, so, but how do you feel about this? And what can you do to help this? And then I think that's when I can be like, well, I can go out in the communities and join those movements. That way I can actually be a part of the solution, instead of just, let me blend in, so I don't look like I'm not with everybody. So I think that's where the pressure comes more from your teammates than it does from the public view.
But I think that's the thing with social media. Like, we can't be too quick to judge. Just because someone doesn't blank their social media black, or doesn't put BLM, or doesn't put Blue Lives Matter, like, people, I get it. Like, so I think there was a quote that was going around during the whole thing was like, you're silent. If you're silent, that means you're like with like the other side or whatever. But like, we never know what's happening behind the scenes. We don't know what groundwork people are doing. Like, I had teammates call me out because sometimes I get called like the Uncle Tom, and so I had teammates call me out like, "Oh, Prince, you're with those people. You're with those people. I ain't see you post. I ain't see you post." But me and my wife was at a Black Lives Matter protest with our two kids and stuff like that, and I don't have to give you evidence or the kids call them these days receipts. I don't have to give you receipts to show you what I'm for and stuff like that. Like I had friends hitting me up, primarily non-Black, brown friends, were saying like, "Hey man, what can we do? Like, I just want to show that like," and I'm thinking like, dude, you don't even have to do anything. Like I know, well, I don't say you don't have to do anything, but I'm saying like you don't have to prove to me that you're not racist. Like I already know you're not racist, and I feel like with the whole social media posting, I feel like it was like Trevin said, it was guilting people into posting stuff just so they could be acceptable. And the reason why I think they were doing this because sorry, it's not funny, but like when people saw companies that weren't posting, like they were boycotting their companies, like you saw, oh, Target, you're not for us. And then I think like that's when the whole thing like at Target happened. And then now it kind of forced those companies like, hey, you better come out and say and speak on like which side you're for.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like it's a fine line. Like, no, I think some social pressure is good, especially just what I'm always going to refer back to what happened last summer, because that was truly just like an awakening in this country that I hadn't experienced yet. And I felt like people were, again, reaching out to me as well, white friends who were apologetic or wanted to know what more they can do. But in those moments, it wasn't that I felt like they were trying to prove to me they weren't racist. It was that I felt like so many people were unaware of the privilege that they had and didn't, it wasn't that they aren't racist, it's just that they haven't done anything to combat racism or to stand up to that racist family member or to stand up to that racist friend who's saying things. So I think it was really more of a moment of introspection where people really realized, oh, like there's actually things that I can probably do on a daily basis to help Black people in this movement. Because I mean, we look at the civil rights movement of the 60s and that became what it was because white people joined. Like allyship is such an important part. Unfortunately, like it shouldn't take white people to say something for change to happen, but a lot of times it does, and that's just the world we live in right now. So I think a little bit of social pressure is good, but then when it becomes a witch hunt, it detracts from the overall message again, which is not what anyone wants or what people working on social change want.
So Imani, you brought up, oops, sorry, go ahead, Trevin.
Oh no, I was gonna agree with Imani on that. Just going back in history, you did see all races join with the movement, and I think that's because they were pushing the movement, and there was nothing behind it. So they basically saw what was happening to Black people, and just saw the Black people just keep trying to fight for change. And I do think that's what brought people in. But I think in today's society with the media and social media, like I said earlier, that narrative got changed. So now now the white people, those white people or those other Black people that get called the names, Uncle Tom and stuff, they didn't want to join because it got turned into something else. And so like, I know I would get talked about, same as Prince, because I didn't wear Black Lives Matter shirts or I didn't post it. And the reason was because I was with the movement, but not the organization. When I researched the organization, it didn't match up. So I wasn't for that, but I was with the movement. And same with, I'm conservative and the slightly right. I'm not gonna just wear MAGA hats and wear all that, because I kind of want to be that bridge to bring the two sides together and find solutions. Because I feel like if you go so far left or so far right, you can't work together anymore. Because then you just get caught up in your pride, or feelings get hurt, or you choose that side so hard that you just forget the main goal of like what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so Trevin, you just touched on this a little bit, but professional sports have historically been something that unite people. I mean, I don't think anyone would deny that Democrats and Republicans can root for the same teams. Do you think that the recent uptick in political statements by athletes undermines the unifying powers of professional sports? And if so, how should we remedy it?
I don't think so. I don't think messed up sports and unity, because you got kids still playing at such a young age, and different ethnic groups coming together at different levels, different ages, and different sports across the country. So I don't think so. Maybe in the media, it might cause people to dislike a team or a player or whatever, but that's all like surface level stuff, kind of.
Sorry. I do think that obviously the way the world works, there is Democrat, there's Republican. Just like on our team, there is Democrats on our team, there are Republicans on our team. So I don't think that you voicing your opinion on what you feel undermines sports as a whole. And that's the same way our democracy works. There's two sides of it for a reason, so that we can meet in the middle. And it's maybe like cliche, but we talk about sports as an analogy to life all the time. And if we can coexist on the same field with the same goal, why can we not do that on the outside? So I don't think it disunifies us at all. I think it does.
Yes, Domi. No, like retweet. No, literally, I was gonna say, I was like, the idea that like athletes silence on their political views like shouldn't be the reason why sports are unifying. Sports are unifying because we're working together for a common goal, despite like any and all differences that we have when we're not on the field or the pitch or the court. Like it's coming together to face a common challenge, and everybody should be able to find unity in that.
Emma, can you ask the question again, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're totally good. Basically, do you think that the recent uptick in political statements by athletes could undermine how unifying sports normally is for our country? I mean, I think an example is recently some left-leaning people have been saying, oh, like Tom Brady came out as a Trump supporter, so I'm not going to root for him in the Super Bowl. Like, do you think things like that are further dividing the country rather than unifying?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on who you ask. Like a person's favorite player could have been um, player A, but then you found out that player A voted for so and so, and you know so and so is for this cause that you like really, 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 really are against, and that could sway your opinion. Like, man, how could I look up to this individual, or how could I have my kid look up to this individual who is okay with this happening? So I could see how that can change a fan's opinion of a player. But I don't know if Dorsey said this. I know that's your last name, but I don't know if Dorsey said this or Domi said this, but I like I've tried to look at sports, like I've tried to compare sports to like the real world. Like, okay, if we could get along, like we're all for one goal, like how come like the world can get along? And I think that's because like there's not just one goal. Like I feel like everybody has different agendas, and we all can't agree on one. So I feel like there's always going to be some type of strife because like, yeah, there's always gonna be some type of strife. I mean, like look at it this year. Like everyone was so active in voting because they were unhappy with how our country was, and so I feel like this next term, it's gonna. I mean, it's gonna be not this current term with Biden, but like whenever his 4 years are coming to an end, I feel like it's going to start back up again. So just because people have different goals, people want to see different things get accomplished.
Yeah, so Prince, you just touched on this, but in the heat of the 2020 election, many athletes made the decision to voice their political views. Did y'all share your political views during that time, and why or why not?
I did not share my view. I think I kind of made it clear where I stand, but I didn't really like force it on people, because I just feel like even the actors, the actresses and actors, they come out and say like who they're voting for, and it's just like there's thousands of people that look up to certain people, they follow suit, and I just think that you can just keep it on your social media. I think that's fine, because I think the deal with sports is it kind of does unite the country a little bit, just from people watching, like the fans, because they come to the game or they watch the game to get away from that and just to enjoy the game and just enjoy people just doing the sport that they love. And I think when you're getting interviewed about, a big play or, the other opponent, and then you go on about politics, you kind of go in a bad area, because these two people, the Democrat and the Republican, they came together to watch this sport activity. But then when you bring up the politics during that segment time, then those two can get into it, and it can be division there. But I am for like go on your page, on your personal page, or you want to do a 60-minute segment or whatever, you can go ahead and say your piece. But I just think in the middle of the sports segment time, we should just keep it just sports, just so the fans, the people watching, could stay united, because that's just something that people are really sensitive on and they can't control themselves, and it will become divided.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in terms, I express my political views, but I don't really feel like it's me being political. It's truly just what I'm passionate about. And I have a million and one like perspectives and opinions on social media. And I think social media does a lot of good, but I also like feel like there's a lot of not great things that happen with social media. And so I try to be as authentic to myself in terms of my footprint, I guess, online, and what I'm passionate about and what like makes me happy and what I want to see change happen in the world is what I like to post about. So in terms of like climate justice or Black Lives Matter or social inequality, those are things that have always been important to me. And since becoming a professional athlete and having like a bigger platform, I think it's my responsibility to share that. But in terms of what Trevin was talking about in keeping the politics out of sports, I see it, but I also understand and relate to the urgency in which people feel like opinions need to be expressed, because like climate change is really important to me. We do not have a lot of time to fix this. And I understand if somebody wants to take that moment, you realize that there's risks and consequences with every decision that you make. And I feel like from the events of last summer, it was really like a moment where I think a lot of people were not as nervous about the blowback of speaking up and kind of actually saying what they feel. I remember when we were discussing kneeling as a team, that's been something that I've been thought about and wanted to do since college, but never would I have done it in college just because I was afraid to, and I didn't want the conversation to get pushed in a direction that I didn't want it to go. So I think there's moments where activism is necessary and people need to step up because it creates the right conversation and pushes us in the right direction, because change doesn't happen unless you really work hard to make it happen.
I didn't say anything on social media just because it's crazy. I made a New Year's resolution to not post on social media all year, and I've kept that until then. So it's kind of ironic how perfect timing it was. But even if I was active, I don't think I would have said anything, just because I don't want to give the media or anybody like the power or the opportunity to judge me based on what I post or what I say. Like, I don't want them to misconstrue anything. Now, if we're in person and we're talking about it, I'll unload my views on you, but I'm not just going to make a blanket statement and quote unquote make myself vulnerable for somebody to try to misconstrue anything I'm going to say. But and yeah, I'm with Dorsey. I think that politics should stay in sports. You said that, right? Were you agreeing with that?
Sorry, could you repeat what you're saying?
Were you saying that politics should stay in sports?
I mean, I think they have a place sometimes.
Okay, I think I think 100% that they should be in there. Like, I think an athlete should. I mean, you've worked so hard to create that platform. There's a reason why there's a mic in your face. There's a reason why you have a blue check by your name. There's a reason why you have an M or a K next to your followers. Like you've built that platform, and if you want to use it to bring awareness, to talk about what you want to talk about, I think you've earned that right. And if that turns somebody off, okay, cool. Don't follow me. If you're not a fan of me because of that, then okay, cool. But I mean, if Kaepernick wouldn't have did what he did, I don't think that would have jump started everything. I mean, even there's people who paved the way before Kaepernick, of course, and so we're thankful for them, the Muhammad Ali's and the Jackie Robinson, and gosh, I can't remember the guy who was in the Olympics and did
Jesse Owens.
Jesse Owens, yeah, I should know that. Thanks, Shawn. And so I feel like we've had guys like that who've paved the way and kind of given us the opportunity to do so. But the banter though, that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy on social media. Like, I will get involved in just like commenting and talking about it. However, I do know that like you can't change someone's heart over social media, and in fact, like you can't change someone's heart at all. So I have the intent when I'm going back and forth is, I'm sick of hearing you. Like, you need to hear me now. Like, I want to give you a piece of my mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. So I did not post like who I was voting for or whatever. I'm just kind of a private person in nature, but like if they were in front of me, I would have a conversation with them about it. And I think based on how I talk, you would be able to figure it out. But I do also agree with Imani and Prince that politics are important in sports, because like you were saying, Prince, if Kaepernick didn't do what he did, we wouldn't be talking about it 4 years after the fact, because that happened in 2016. It's 2021, so almost 5 years now. So I do think they're very important, and I think we need to use our platform in a way that brings about good change, and the good things can happen from us saying that. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with Prince as far as keeping politics and sports, but also I think I agree with Imani. At least have some sort of back to it, and not just post something just to post something. I didn't personally choose to share my views, my political views on anything, just because that's not how I roll. But I think that it's important to keep politics and sports, just because, I mean, you have Fox News, CNN, and everybody else telling the world what to think. And then you look at communities like where I'm from, we don't watch the news. So I think that it's good that you have somebody to look up to give you some sort of guidance. But as long as they're backing up their belief and it's just not, you know, a smoke screen. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to throw in one more point. I know, Emma, we're about to go to Q&A. I always just find it incredibly hypocritical and frustrating when people will come at athletes for sharing their views when everybody wants to know what movies we're watching or what food we're eating. Like literally every other aspect about our lives people are obsessed with, but then we open our mouth to talk about something important like politics that we're passionate about, and they're like, oh, you can't talk about that, that's sports. That is like one thing that will forever frustrate me, because we're people too and we have our own opinions. And if we're going to have thousands of people following us, then we should be able to talk about them. And if people are going to come after us for it, okay, sure, like that's fine, that's their opinion, but like don't be surprised if I share mine.
Thank you so much for that answer, Imani. We're going to move to questions from the audience. And because the first question is anonymous, I'm going to read it out. Do you think that the owners of sports teams should be able to control the image of their teams? Do you think that political speech from athletes is better done off the playing field when they aren't being directly associated with the team?
Can you ask the second question again? The second part?
It was essentially, do you think it's better for athletes to discuss sports when they are removed from their team and removed from the act of playing?
I think I'll make mine quick. I think the owner can do whatever he wants. It's his team, as long as it's within the rules. And I think the athlete can, like, we shouldn't be able to tell someone how and what to do with their platform. They've earned it. They've created it. Like, they should be able to do whatever they want. Now, not saying that there's not consequences. Like we've seen with Cap, that there's consequences. But at the end of the day, if you make a decision and you're cool with it and you're going to live with it, then do it. If you're owner and you want to wear a MAGA hat, or you want to put Black Lives Matter on your plane or on your field or whatever, then do it. But there's going to be some type of, I don't know if it's called consequences, but there's going to be some type of reaction after that. So as long as you're prepared for that, I think you can do whatever you want.
I agree with Prince, just having the right to be able to do whatever you decide to do, but I think that there should be integrity with it, and I don't think that there should be some sort of incentive that comes from however you respond, or however, basically the team shouldn't tell you how to respond. It should be your own personal opinion. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can go to it. Let me say my rebuttal. That's tough, Shawn, because you're an owner, and if you have an image, you have a mission for your team, you have a brand for your team. So if somebody is kind of doing something that you're against, then I mean you're gonna say something, or you're gonna get them off your team. I would believe so. I don't think you just let them continue to tarnish your brand like what you've built.
I was gonna go in with Prince on that one, because if I'm an owner, I don't want to lose money out of my pockets, losing fans for what one of my players is doing during football or team function activities. It's a difference if you're on your personal time, on your Instagram, your Twitter, you saying stuff. But if you're doing a press release or press interview in my building, during the time of my game that just happened, like that I'm paying for it, I'm paying your salary, I'm basically providing your lifestyle, I'm putting into your retirement, and you want to do that, I'm gonna like cut you off, and then you can go somewhere else because you're affecting my pockets by doing that. So I do feel like the owner should be able to do what he wants with his team. And I mean, that's what contracts are for. So you should come to an agreement with here's the contract. You can't do X, Y, Z, but you're allowed to do A, B, C. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Like I'll find somebody else. But I think the owner should like have the say, because it's at the end of the day, they're the ones funding the people under them with their own money.
But do you not think that they could potentially lose money from doing that to somebody, from doing that to one of their teammates or to one of their players? Like there could also be backlash from that. So like I hear what you're saying. I'm just wondering, just a question.
Well, it basically do it all the time. So like when you have an injury, hey, you better not say anything about this injury when they talk to you. Don't mention nothing or you're off the team. So they basically like pretty much do it already. So that's the only reason why I say that. Like it's already in place.
But that dynamic sometimes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shawn.
You gotta say that you would, because if I'm misunderstanding the question, let me know. But I was just saying that a team can't incentivize a player to vote one way or another, or to say, hey, do this one way or do this another. That's what yeah, they have the right to, but I'm just saying as a player, have the kind of integrity to like at least be able to back it up and at least be able to know why you are saying what you're saying and not just saying it for $1. That's what I'm saying. But some people.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. They shouldn't tell you to vote for it. But like if I'm an owner, like don't bring your political views, don't matter what side you're on, into my building when we're on display in front of fans, because I need those fans to fund my organization.
Hold on, so Trevin, so you saying that you blackballing Cap? Are you cutting Cap?
If I'm an owner? yeah, you gotta go. They lost so much money, it's ridiculous. If I was an owner, because at the end of the day, the owner is all about himself. To be honest, like they say that they're about the people, but we all know the truth.
No, see, that's like the part for me that about sports that is so frustrating, and about so many things, like the fact that it's money driven and it's what's going to get you a profit. And so right now it may be more accommodating to play to Black Lives Matter and talk about social justice and equality because that's going to bring in people for you. But initially when Cap knelt, it was, you would be getting more blowback for that. So it's always how do we navigate this to make sure that our business is making money? But that's so, especially as like Black people, the idea that they're making money off of us is very uncomfortable sometimes, because it's
mentality.
Yes. I didn't want to say, but thank you.
And people choose to turn an eye to it for $1 bill. So I mean, I don't know. It's a tough situation. You look at like the NCAA and everything that they're going through. And that's probably the biggest problem going on too, that nobody wants to talk about. Like you look at companies that make millions and millions of dollars off these college athletes, but they can't pay them. If you look at college sports, basketball, football, predominantly African-American, right? Well, we're taking all the money we make and we're spending all these in the scholarships, this, that, and the other, but nobody wants to do anything. Everybody turns an eye to it. So, I mean, I feel like if you have a platform, if that's what you want to use it for, then you could discuss it. But I just think that we shouldn't react based off of what somebody else is telling us to do for $1 when we know it isn't right.
As much as I would love y'all to keep going with this question, I think our next audience asked question is a good continuation. So Benjamin, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me? Great. So first off, thank you all for joining us. It's a real pleasure. Back in June of 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, one of my favorite NFL players of all time, Drew Brees, was asked by Yahoo Sports about the NFL players kneeling during the national anthem. Brees responded, and I quote, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Although Breeze soon walked these comments back, I personally was greatly disappointed. So my question is, do you attribute comments like these to be a genuine misunderstanding or a conscious rejection? If you personally support these forms of protest, how do you clarify to your teammates the underlying meaning?
Thanks for your question. That was a good question. I I do think it wasn't really fair, and he walked it back, I think, out of pressure because, like we were talking about earlier, that's what he believed. But if you look behind the scenes, that man has donated $25 million of his own money to the city of New Orleans. And we all know majority of the city of New Orleans is low social, economic areas, and it's a lot of minorities. And him and his family, they're great people. I played with them for 2 years. Like I said, $25 million of his own money has been donated to that city to build up neighborhoods, to help families. And it's just like all that gets swept under the rug because he believes he just stands for the flag, and that's fine. And I'm sure guys on the team expressed to him what it was about. I just think his words kind of got twisted, or he maybe answered it wrong. But I think it was wrong how he was treated because he's done more for that city than probably anybody else has ever done.
Yeah, and I mean, and Trevin knows him well. Trevin's played with him, so yeah. So I agree with Trevin on that. But I saw the interview, and the thing was that the person never mentioned Cap or why, or I think what it was, the person interviewing him mentioned like, hey, Cap was protesting for like social injustice, and then Breeze just like said, I'll never, like, he already had it formed in his head like it was disrespecting the flag. So I think that's where the uproar came from. It's like, hey, the guy interviewing you already gave you a layup. Like, he told you why Cap was doing it, but you just switched it up, like, or not switched it up. You already had your narrative formed in your head. So yeah, so guys like Malcolm Jenkins, like guys on his team, Michael Thomas, like told him what's up, like, dude, like, you're tripping, and stuff like that. And of course, he won his teammates back. But yeah, I was just like, I was wild when I saw that, just because the interviewer told him why Cap was doing it, and he just wasn't rocking with it. But like, to Trevin's point, that doesn't mean that Drew's a racist, and that doesn't mean that Drew has not done stuff for Black and brown people. Like, Drew has, what he's done for the New Orleans city. I think he probably done close to, like, financially, I feel like he's done close to more than what any other player has done. Like, Drew is heavily involved in the community.
Yeah, I mean, from what when I kind of heard that, and I'm not in the football world, so I do not know the ins and outs as Prince and Trevin are talking about. Just considering the level of stardom that Drew Brees is at, like, his words have power, and that's a blessing and a curse. And so, as much as he has done in the community, which is incredible and awesome, his words are going to carry weight with a lot of people who haven't done that work, or who haven't made that change in their lives to try to be intentional about fighting inequality. So it's just unfortunate because, to the second part of your point, how do we communicate to people what this means to us and what kneeling means to us? I remember when we were in the Challenge Cup, we had a team meeting, and literally, like, somebody had asked a question like, what is it to kneel? Like, what does it mean to you? I basically was just like, well, the preamble of our Constitution, like, literally the first sentence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. But at that time, Black people were enslaved, and women did not have very many rights at that point. And so it was hypocritical, but it doesn't mean that that's not true. It just means that we can follow it up and we can make it change better. And that's what kneeling means. I want this country to be better, and I expect this country to be better. And if it's going to be a democracy and I have that opportunity to express that, then I'm going to. But yeah, that's the way that I try to communicate it to people. And hopefully, I mean, sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't.
And just kind of a quick follow-up to that, especially given that the U.S. women's national team received so much criticism for their lawsuit for equal pay for equal labor, do you think that if a female soccer player had come out as vocal about their stances as Breeze was, are you guys treated differently for sharing your political opinions compared to maybe NFL players, NBA players? Basically, is there like a gender difference, do you think?
Well, I think that Megan Rapinoe has been very vocal about it. Hers is on the side of being for Black Lives Matter and being more liberal. And she receives backlash from that all the time from the other side. So same thing that happened to Drew Brees happens to her. I think it goes back to what we were saying is you have to count the cost of what you say before you say it, or you have to be okay with the backlash that comes with it. If that's what you truly believe, like that's fine. But you just have to count the cost of what you're saying and what you are standing up for in that moment.
All right, well, rapid fire, move on to the last question. We have about 5 minutes left, and it was anonymous, so I'll read it. Do you believe that athletes, especially those from low income backgrounds, have a duty or responsibility to try and improve their community, either with money or creating community organizations? Prince, I know that you have a charitable organization. I don't know if you want to chime in with your personal experiences with this.
I'm just not big on like I'm just not big on telling people like what to do with their money or with their stardom. I mean, yeah, so so I don't know. I'm just not big on that. I feel like if you're an athlete, I mean, if you earned whatever you did, like you can do whatever you want. So, but if you're asking like if an athlete came from a low income environment and like you're asking me what advice would I give him, then I would say like yeah, like you've came here and like with the success with these finances, like you have some responsibility. And like think about that little boy or little girl that's in your neighborhood. Like you owe it to that person to kind of mentor them or show them the ropes or um and yeah, like give back and try to build back up your neighborhood. And even if the person comes from a rich neighborhood, I feel like I would advise them, excuse me, like they have a responsibility to go to another neighborhood where it is more or less fortunate, and just share with them like how you got to where you got, kind of mentor them. And I think that's why like the programs Big Brothers and Big Sisters exist, so guys and girls can have an opportunity to do things like that.
I'll kind of agree with Prince on his beginning part about just it's hard to kind of tell somebody what to do or what to think, because I feel like those kids, like psychologically, you spend so much time and energy trying to get out that when you finally do get out, you never think about going back. Which I think it's hard for people because to rewire your mind to let me go back into this environment and help out, just because for years of your life all you focused on was getting out. But it is cool to see Marshawn Lynch go back to Oakland, like one of the worst neighborhoods like in the country, and like steady helping out. And that's where he spends his time and money helping that community. And I thought that was good to see, just because if you do leave an area that was, high violence and, danger, like definitely when you make it, you kind of like stay away from that area. But it has been cool to see him go back and the community accept him and be able to help those kids and those family members.
And I know, Trevin, at least for a while, I don't know if you do now, you substitute taught, I believe it was math in the Mesa Public School District in Arizona. Did you feel like that in some way was kind of giving back to at least a community that housed you for a while?
I do, because when I would come home in the off season, I just didn't like sitting around. So yeah, I started to teach in the Mesa community because I felt like, other than West Phoenix, that was one of the areas that kind of needed help. And I did feel like that was my chance to go in there, and I'm an NFL player, so kids automatically listen for some reason. So that was my chance to go in and teach, because math is a difficult subject, and as soon as people walk in the door, they don't want to be there, and they just think it's hard, and you don't like your teacher. Usually math teachers are a little different. So I'm definitely, it was cool for me to go in there and actually reach kids and teach math and get them going. I did think that I did my part, and I still to today, try to just wherever I'm at, help the youth, because that's where the solution is. Like, it's hard to change a grown-up's mind, but you can kind of get the youth to steer them in the right direction of education is important, and how do you carry yourself and your integrity and treating people the right way.
Thank you, Trevin, for that last answer. Unfortunately, I believe that is all the time we have this evening. I would like to thank Prince, Domi, Trevin, Imani, and Shawn one more time for joining us tonight and sharing their views with Dartmouth. I also want to thank our audience for attending this roundtable tonight. If you are interested in learning more about the DPU, check us out on social media using the links Mac has just sent into the chat. Thank you all once again, and good night.